There are shadows that cling to the edges of our world, not just of night, but of what we lose. They stretch and distort, whispering tales of bargains struck in the quiet corners of the soul. This is one such tale. A story not of monsters lurking in the dark, but of the monster we become when we give away the very light that defines us. A story of a boy, a quiet boy named Elias, who found he could sell his dreams. And in doing so, sold himself, piece by agonizing piece, until only an echo remained. This is the chilling chronicle of The Boy Who Sold His Dreams. The town of Oakhaven was a study in perpetual twilight. Not a literal dimming of the sun, but a spiritual one. Its houses sagged under the weight of generations of unspoken disappointments, their paint peeling like old skin. The cobblestone streets, perpetually damp, reflected the gray sky with a dull sheen. Children here didn't laugh boisterously, their giggles were muted, their games played in the hushed tones of a library. Hope, it seemed, was a commodity as scarce as genuine sunshine. Elias, at 10 years old, was a product of Oakhaven. He was a wisp of a boy, all sharp angles and watchful eyes, the color of a stormy sea. His hair, perpetually unkempt, was the shade of dry leaves, and often fell across his brow, obscuring eyes that saw too much and too little all at once. He lived in a small, cramped cottage at the edge of town, with his grandmother, a woman whose own dreams had long since calcified into bitter memories. She rarely spoke, communicating mostly through sighs and the clatter of ancient crockery. Elias learned early that to ask for attention was to invite a weary glance, a dismissive wave. He learned to be invisible. His days were a monotonous rhythm of chores, sweeping dust that always returned, tending a garden that grudgingly yielded stunted vegetables, fetching water from the communal well. His nights, however, were a different country entirely. In the vast, silent expanse of his own mind, Elias was boundless. His dreams were vivid tapestries woven from threads of longing and the quiet observations of his waking hours. He soared over Oakhaven, not as a boy, but as an eagle, seeing the town transformed into a vibrant tapestry of greens and golds. He conversed with mythical beasts, rode on the backs of iridescent fish through crystal oceans, built castles of starlight, and walked through forests where the trees whispered secrets in a language only he understood. These dreams were his solace, his escape, the only place where Elias truly existed. He often woke with a pang of loss, the vibrant colors fading with the dawn, leaving him once more in the muted reality of Oakhaven. He tried to tell his grandmother about them once, a shimmering tale of a sky full of singing jewels. She had merely grunted, stirring her gruel, and told him to stop filling his head with nonsense. Elias learned then that his dreams, precious as they were his alone. A secret treasure. The inciting incident arrived not with a bang, but with a whisper, like most profound changes do in the quiet lives of boys. It was a particularly dreary autumn afternoon. Rain lashed against the cottage windows, and the wind howled like a mournful spirit. Elias, confined indoors, was bored. His grandmother was asleep in her armchair, a tattered blanket pulled up to her chin, emitting soft, rhythmic snores. Elias, restless, wandered into his own small room, a space barely large enough for his narrow cot and a rickety wooden chest. On the chest sat a collection of trinkets, a smooth, gray river stone, a broken porcelain doll missing an eye, a dried bird's feather. Among them was a chipped wooden horse, its mane long since snapped off, a gift from his long-gone mother, the only tangible memory he possessed of her. He picked it up, tracing its worn contours. A profound sadness settled over him. He wished, with all the intensity of a lonely child, that the horse could be whole again, that he could remember his mother's face clearly, that the world could be brighter. That night, Elias had a dream unlike any other. It was a dream of restoration. He saw the wooden horse, not broken, but gleaming, its mane flowing, its painted eyes bright. His mother, her face finally clear, smiled at him, her hand gently stroking the horse's head. The dream was so real, so potent, that he felt a peculiar sensation in his chest upon waking, a faint warmth, a gentle pressure, as if something had been physically moved within him. He woke with a start, the image of his mother's smile still vivid. He looked at the wooden horse on his chest. It was still broken. But then, a thought, fleeting and strange, flickered through his mind. What if I could give this dream to someone? The idea was outlandish, born of childish fantasy, yet it clung to him. Later that morning, his neighbor, a girl named Lyra, knocked on their door. Lyra was a year younger than Elias, a timid child with wide, fearful eyes. Her own wooden horse, a cherished toy, had been accidentally shattered the day before, run over by a careless wagon. She was inconsolable, her small face streaked with tears. Elias, usually withdrawn, felt an unusual surge of empathy. "Don't cry, Lyra," he said, his voice surprisingly gentle. "I had a dream last night. About a wooden horse. A perfect one." Lyra sniffled, looking up at him. "It's broken. Forever." A peculiar impulse seized Elias. He reached out, hesitantly, and placed his palm gently against Lyra's forehead. It was an odd gesture, one he didn't understand, but it felt right. He closed his eyes, concentrating, focusing on the vivid memory of his dream, the whole, gleaming horse, his mother's smile. He felt that familiar warmth in his chest, then a subtle release, like a breath exhaled. Lyra gasped. Her eyes, wide with surprise, stared blankly for a moment, then softened. A slow, tentative smile spread across her face. "Elias," she whispered, I saw it. My horse. It was fixed. And your mother, she was beautiful." She looked at him with an awe he had never seen before. It felt so real. Elias felt a curious lightness, a fleeting sense of power he hadn't known he possessed. He had given Lyra his dream. And in return, for the first time, he felt seen. A spark ignited within him, a dangerous, tempting warmth in the cold grayness of Oakhaven. The first sale was innocent, almost accidental. Lyra, still basking in the glow of the dream, pressed a small, smooth pebble into Elias's hand. "For the beautiful dream," she whispered, and then, with a newfound lightness in her step, she skipped away. Elias stared at the pebble, then at his hand, then at the empty space where the dream had been. He felt a faint, almost imperceptible tremor of emptiness, but it was quickly overshadowed by the thrill of connection, of making someone happy. He had given something of himself, and received something tangible in return. He began to experiment. Slowly, carefully. He found he could indeed extract these vibrant mental landscapes and transfer them. It wasn't a verbal command, or a magical incantation. It was a feeling, a focused intent, a gentle pressure against the recipient's temple or forehead, a silent offering of his innermost world. His first conscious sale was to another child, Thomas, a boy notorious for his clumsiness and his inability to ever win a footrace. Elias, watching Thomas's dejected face after yet another loss, offered him a dream of victory. A dream where Thomas, light as a deer, outran all the other children, his face alight with joy, the wind a thrilling song in his ears. For this, Thomas, eyes still shining from the phantom race, gave Elias a shiny, tarnished copper coin. Elias felt the same subtle lightness, the faint echo of emptiness, but it was still negligible. The coin, however, was real. It clinked in his pocket, a tangible reward for something intangible. He could buy a sweet bun from the baker, something his grandmother rarely allowed. This was power. Small, yes, but power nonetheless. He sold a dream of a warm, sunny day, filled with butterflies, to a sickly little girl named Clara, who was confined to her bed. She gave him a tiny, perfectly carved wooden bird. He sold a dream of finding a lost kitten to a tearful boy, receiving a handful of glistening marbles in return. Each time, the process was the same. A concentrated focus, a gentle touch, a subtle release. And each time, a small, almost imperceptible part of Elias felt a little less vibrant, a little more transparent. His own dreams, though still beautiful, began to feel slightly less sharp around the edges, as if their colors were subtly desaturating. He noticed it only faintly at first, a fleeting impression upon waking. The castles of starlight were a shade dimmer, the oceans a fraction less crystalline. But the joy of the children, their wide-eyed wonder, their gratitude, dulled that nascent worry. For the first time, Elias was not invisible. He was needed. He was special. The coins and trinkets began to accumulate in his small wooden chest, nestled beside the broken horse. He would often open it, running his fingers over the varied textures, feeling a strange satisfaction. These weren't just objects, they were proof of his unique ability, proof of his existence. Proof that he had something to offer. Something valuable. The whispers began, carried on the damp Oakhaven winds, filtering through the hushed conversations of the town. Elias, the boy who can make you dream. He gave Lyra her horse back, in her sleep. Thomas won a race, even though it was only in his mind. The children, with their boundless belief in magic, were his first evangelists. They didn't question how, only that it was. And in a town starved for color, even phantom color, the idea of a boy who could conjure visions was intoxicating. Elias, for the first time, felt a burgeoning sense of identity. He wasn't just Grandma's boy, or the quiet one. He was Elias, the boy who could give you dreams. It was a fragile identity, built on the currency of his own inner world, but it was his. And as Act I drew to a close, a subtle shift occurred. The children, still his primary clients, began to ask for more specific, more elaborate dreams. Not just a sunny day, but a day where they were the sun. Not just a victory, but a victory that made everyone cheer their name. And in the shadows, listening to the children's excited chatter, the adults of Oakhaven began to stir. Their desires were not so simple. Their emptiness ran far deeper. The transition from